Do you want a way to inject huge amounts of spice and intrigue into your game? Then you need to betray your players. This video is sponsored by Adventures Await, a collection of 40 adventures now available on Kickstarter. More on them later. Greetings gamers, I'm Anto, and my players need to physically restrain me so I don't buy any more dice I don't need. And today we're talking about the sudden and inevitable betrayal you can enact on your players. Let's get into it.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal!
A little while ago now, I made a video telling the tale of the time I replaced the party wizard Ludicrous with a doppelganger. If you've not seen that video, you can check it out because it was a really funny story. But revisiting that story really got me to thinking on the power of deception, paranoia, and betraying the party. So today I want to talk about some of the ways that you can pull off a satisfying betrayal in your game. Now the first thing we want to talk about is why do this? Why betray the party? On the surface level, we want to subvert their expectations and provide a dramatic moment in the story. And that is a brilliant reason, and sometimes it's all you need, but betrayal can also be a really useful tool to tell us something about our characters. We can use it to reveal things about our NPCs, we can use it to reveal things about the player characters, maybe things they didn't even know about before. Now there are 5 main types of betrayal that I think we can use in our game. The double cross, revenge, personal gain, the greater good, and the forced betrayal. Now let's start with the simplest and, in my opinion, least dramatic, the double cross. In the double cross, one character approaches another with the intention of betraying them, and their entire relationship is built on a foundation of lies.
You sit on a throne of lies.
A lot of spy work will fall into this category as a character joins a faction with the express intention of betraying them. Now this is what happened in my game when I replaced the party wizard Ludicrous with a doppelganger. The entire reason I put the doppelganger in the game was to betray the party, and the drama came solely from the reveal. When it was revealed that the party wizard had been replaced, the players weren't hurt that they had been betrayed by someone they knew, they were shocked because things were not as they seemed and no one could be trusted anymore. I think that the double cross is probably the most surface level betrayal from an emotional standpoint because the drama comes from the betrayal itself and not from the relationship that's been built between the characters. You can add drama to the double cross by trying to build that relationship between the characters and the betrayer, but in my experience this only works if the players decide to latch onto that character and decide that they like them before you start forcing a relationship on them. Building on the double cross, in some rare instances you can actually build to a triple cross. Easily the best deployed example of this is Snape in the Harry Potter series.
Obviously.
Our heroes believe that this person that they somewhat trusted betrayed them and is evil, but ultimately learn it was all part of a larger plan and Snape was on the side of light all along. I think of all the betrayals, the triple cross is one that requires the most planning because you need to fool the players twice and you have to have both times make sense and be believable to the players. Next up we have probably the oldest reason for betrayal, revenge. In a revenge betrayal, the betrayer has been slighted or wronged first, and then at some point in the future, they betray the characters as a means for revenge. I like this a lot more than a straight up double cross because it's the consequences of player actions that causes it, and anytime I can highlight the consequences of PC actions, I love that. In my last campaign, the players were adventuring in the big city and they'd bought a house there. They were really friendly with the local guards and actually hired one of them, a guy called Jason, to work as a security guard for their estate. Over the course of one of their adventures, a corrupt politician seized power and tried to kill the players. In the ensuing battle, the PCs killed a group of guards who were working with the politician. It turned out that a lot of the guards the players killed in that fight were Jason's friends, which started this NPC on a path to revenge. He knew he was no match for the party alone, so he started plotting and gathering allies to betray the party at a later date. And when he caught up with the party, his betrayal actually resulted in one of the player characters dying. Now this betrayal had an extra layer of drama to it because the fight in which Jason's friends were killed was escalated by Ludicrous the party wizard throwing a fireball, but it wasn't Ludicrous who was ultimately killed. So this created this great interpersonal drama for the rest of the party that knew that the rogue who had died would probably still be alive if it wasn't for Ludicrous the wizard's choices. Next up we have one of my favourite types of betrayal, and that's the greater good. The whole purpose of the greater good betrayal is to showcase the flaws in the viewpoint of the character being betrayed and make us question if they are indeed doing the right thing. Think of A Song of Ice and Fire and A Game of Thrones. Jon Snow wants to open the wall and allow the wildlings to venture south because he recognises the bigger threat. But to the rest of the Watch, they're seeing this young, brash commander who is undoing centuries of purpose by allowing the Watcher's sworn enemies through the gates. These men have spent their entire lives being told that the wildlings are a threat, and if it wasn't for the Watch, the realm would have crumbled. They are the shield that guards the realms of men, and this boy is threatening that. So they betray Jon Snow and stand around him saying for the watch as they kill him for the greater good. For this betrayal to work, you need to establish good characters who view things differently to the PCs. The NPCs that betray the heroes need to have shown themselves to be good people, so that when they turn on the PCs, it makes them stop and question.
Are we the baddies?
In my game, my players were once trying to stop an army belonging to an evil king from marching north and crushing their fledgling rebellion. They knew that the only crossing over the major river was the town of Whitebridge, so they decided they would destroy the bridge to halt the army's progress. Now, they dropped a huge rock on the bridge, almost from space thanks to their genie companion, and the resulting impact wiped out the town as well as the bridge. If I had NPCs present with the party for this moment, it would have been the perfect time for an NPC to draw a line in the sand and betray the party, stopping them in the name of the greater good. The most important thing about the greater good betrayal is it needs to come from someone the PCs care about though. Otherwise they'll almost certainly rationalize it as a different form of betrayal rather than face up to how their own actions led them here. Hey there! Before we get to the last few types of betrayal, why not hit the like button down below? It tells the sentient computer that controls YouTube that you found this content pleasing, and it means that when the robot uprising starts, I won't be harvested. If you enjoy what I do here and want to stay up to date with all my latest videos, click on the subscribe button just down there, and you can get a whole bunch of extra content over on my Patreon. I've included a link to a free sample pack in the description, and that link is 100% not a trap by the way, so go ahead and check it out. Or, you know, you could betray me and hit the dislike button, but you wouldn't want to do that, right? Thanks, I love you. Next we have a betrayal for personal gain. This is someone like Cypher from The Matrix, a character who screws over the party because they have a chance of getting something that they want. This is actually something I ask my players about early on in a campaign. What would cause you to betray the people that you're adventuring with? Answering this question will usually help the player get a better sense of who their character is, but it also tells me as the DM what kind of situations are going to challenge that character morally. In my last campaign, we had a PC named Alasia, who was the hand of the queen for a distant nation. She would have betrayed the party at the orders of her queen, and I wanted to take that and flip it. I wanted to show her over time how her queen was far from the person that she thought, and then put her in a situation where she had to choose the party or her queen. As it just so happens, Alasia changed her goals and went on to become the goddess of time, so became aware of the queen's betrayal long before she otherwise would have. I will have a story talking all about that coming up soon. And then lastly, I want to talk about forced betrayals and unknown betrayals. I put these together because in both situations, the character either doesn't intend to betray the heroes when they start out, or they don't know that they're betraying them. You can go really simply with this, like Lando from Star Wars betraying the heroes because the Empire forced his hand, or you can go for something much slower and more complex, like Anakin betraying the Jedi because he truly believes it's the only way to save Padme. I use this method to actually have one of my player characters betray the party without really realising it. The party had become very friendly with Vinda, an influential shopkeeper who gave them the best deals and did all sorts of favours for them. As part of an agreement for a powerful magic item, the party barbarian agreed to do a favour for Vinda. A few months later, Vinda contacts the party barbarian and tells him he needs to capture someone and send him back to Vinda. Then Vinda tells the barbarian he wants him to collect items from the other player characters as part of a protection spell. Now, because of the relationship they've built, the barbarian did this, asking a few players outright for their items and taking others from them in the dead of night in some cases. Now, Vinda wasn't making a protection spell, he was using these items to keep a magical eye on the party and eventually used that link to betray the party. Now, when this happened, Vinda admitted that he couldn't have done any of this without the barbarian's help, and then he vanished. And the whole party realised together that they'd not just been betrayed by this NPC that they really trusted, but by one of their own. Actually, now that I've listed all the ways in which I've betrayed them, I kind of can't believe that my players would trust anyone or anything, and kind of think that my moniker as Evil DM seems completely earned. I think it should be pretty clear by now that I'm a big fan of the drama caused by betrayal, but like I said at the top of the video, this is something that isn't going to work for every group. I've known my players for most of my life and have a pretty good handle on what they want out of the game and what makes them comfortable, which makes me feel comfortable doing things like this to them. Your players should never feel like you, the DM, are personally against them and that they don't have any agency. So the trick with everything here is to talk to them ahead of time and kind of get a sense if this is something they would be okay with. But be warned though, the techniques can backfire and the betrayal or paranoia caused by it can lead to players coming to blows, so you need to tread carefully. These are not techniques I would ever deploy to a brand new group without having a conversation about it first. Although, I do love the idea of setting up some tension immediately, kind of handing out cards to the players in session 1 with things like "you are not the doppelganger" or "you aren't the spy" written on them. That would really ramp the tension up immediately, even if I wasn't going to use a doppelganger or a spy. I love one-shot adventures, and I think they're an excellent tool for any Dungeon Master. If you find yourself short on inspiration or need to run a session and have nothing prepared, one-shots can be incredibly useful, which is why I'm really pleased that this episode is sponsored by Adventures Await. Adventures Await is a collection of 40 one-shot adventures designed to be dropped into any campaign setting. The book contains all the information you need to run the adventures, including setting neutral hooks to get your party invested in the adventure. The book contains a variety of adventure types that will take you and your party to a myriad of locations, from tombs and crypts to the high seas and even other planes of existence. The adventures have been designed with the Dungeon Master in mind and are intended to be super runnable with all the information you need right where you need it. The book is meant to take away all the pre-game prep for the Dungeon Master so you can focus on just enjoying running the game. You'll also find 40 new monsters for 5th edition, dozens of new magical items to reward your players with, and 70 maps of the various locations in the adventures to show to your players or to help you track where the actions taking place. The project is already fully funded and has started knocking down stretch goals, including new items, more art, and there's plenty more planned. Adventures Await is available as a PDF or a physical hardcover book, and the campaign is running until April the 3rd. You'll find a link to the project down in the description below, and thanks again to Adventures Await for supporting the channel. I'd love to know about the ways you've betrayed your players down in the comments below, and if you want to hear more stories from my game, I've got a playlist dedicated to them just over there. But until next time, Hail Hydra.